service senator, our sheriff.
Exactly.
Yes. Did a good job. Thank you.
So we ready? Good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Kerwood Window and Door. We are happy to host Senator Rick Scott's Hurricane Preparedness Awareness for 2019. I am Randy Koss Sr., owner and founder of Kerwood Window and Door. We are a 22-year-old family-owned business. Our team is expertly trained to educate and help our customers make informed decisions to help keep their homes safe during a storm. Throughout the last several years, the Tampa Bay region has been spared the devastation of hurricanes. Charlie, Irma, and Michael, just to name a few. Senator Rick Scott, FEMA, and all the rest of his team have worked tirelessly to help educate us and make us aware of the options we have to survive a devastating storm. But it's up to all of us to do our part, not just let it go in one ear and out the other. So without any more, Sheriff Connor,
Yes, sir. Thank
turn
you,
it over to
sir.
you.
Hey.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. What a privilege it is to be here. Several years ago, I was then a newly appointed sheriff, and the celebration didn't last long. Within the next 48 hours, hurricane was bearing down on the state of Florida, and at one point had a trajectory heading towards Tampa Bay. And I received a phone call from an unknown number, picked up the phone, and it was then Governor Rick Scott. Sheriff, what do you need? And I said, well, we're trying to work through that now. I'm on my way to you. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll see you when you get here. Met at the Emergency Operations Center, lock my number in. From that day forward, prior to the hurricane, I received a phone call almost daily from then Governor Rick Scott. I received a phone call from the leader of the National Guard would call me at times. Hey, the governor wants to know, what do you need? And then it came into play, he needed a favor. Hey, we need to keep the port open later. We're trying to get fuel all over the state, get fuel tanks filled up. And then he helped us out here in the Tampa Bay area because he was trying to get utility trucks staged around the state of Florida for after the storm, that we would be prepared and be able to restore electric and power quickly and more efficiently than it's ever been done. And he said, I have troopers escorting trucks to Home Depot, out to the Strawberry Festival grounds, trying to get you the resources that you need. My point being is we had such a strong advocate and supporter before, during, and after the storm. At one point after the storm, his wife even called. You know, the governor wants to know, what do you need? How are you guys doing? Anything we can do to help? What a great privilege it is now for not just Hillsborough County, but the entire state of Florida, that now being elected to federal office, we have now Senator Rick Scott that can help us and be that advocate, that supporter, to even provide greater resources to not just the Tampa Bay area, but the Tampa Bay area and beyond. So again, what a privilege it is to be able to stand here in front of you and share a story and be the person that gets to introduce our great senator from the state of Florida. Please help me welcome Senator Rick Scott.
You know, you forget some of those issues that we dealt with.
Yes.
Yeah, if you all remember that we were running out of fuel. Harvey had just hit Texas, and so we didn't have as much refined oil and gas, and all of the gas in the state comes in either through Tampa or through Port Everglades, and if you look at it, both of them were getting shut down because Irma was supposed to hit the East Coast, and then eventually it kept moving west, and it looks like it was going to hit the West Coast. It actually did hit a little bit south of here, and so we were worried about running out of fuel. And then we had 13 million people without power when it left our state. 13 million people without power out of 21 million people. And so we had to get the utility trucks in as quickly as possible. But with the support of our sheriffs, our police chiefs, our county commission, everybody, we had 61,000 people working on our utilities, getting the power back on within 2 days. And so our power got back on very quickly. And it was because what we learned over my 8 years as governor is we just got everybody together and just kept solving problems together. So, but Sheriff Chronister has done a great job and has been a great partner. Knock on wood, we don't have a hurricane that hits the Tampa area, but as you all know, the last 4 years we've had some pretty tough weather around the state. Irma was devastating when it came through, and Michael was, for a smaller area, just was horrible this last year. And unfortunately with Michael, what people don't realize is that just because it's a Category 2 or Category 3, it's still going to be deadly. We had nobody, we worked hard to get people to understand they had to evacuate because we had 9 foot of storm surge. And unfortunately, especially in the Mexico City Beach area, and then some in the Panama City area, we lost individuals. I remember the day after Michael hit, I was down at Mexico Beach, and there was a young man there that his mom didn't evacuate, and unfortunately she was found 4 days later. And but everybody kept focusing on the category of the storm instead of the storm surge. So this whole event is, be prepared. Listen, your sheriff, your county commission, your mayors, they're gonna tell you what they think you need to be doing in that area. Listen to them. You've got to follow their direction, and you shouldn't be taking risk. So let me just recognize a few people. I want to thank Dee Dee, Randy, and Dana for all of y'all for inviting us here. And I hope your business is really good. That's what I did for 8 years, trying to make sure this is a place where people couldn't get a vacation. They were so busy. The best thing was when I ran back in 2010, we had a horrible economy, and then a few years later, people were complaining they couldn't get a vacation. That was a good day. So I want to recognize Commissioner Sandy Merman. Sandy and I my entire 8 years, we got to work together on just a variety of issues. And Sandy was always a great partner and did a great job. This young lady is about to move to Florida. She's been traveling with me all week. It's Denise Cleveland Leggett. She's with HUD. She's responsible for 8 states?
Plus Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, so easy ones. And so she works with Secretary Ben Carson, and our job this week is basically try our best to get people ready. And she unfortunately lives in a state that has ice storms, snow, and higher taxes, right? It's reality. Florida's the best. And I want to recognize Jack Kemp for works with the SBA. So first off, a couple things. On HUD's case, what they do, they come in after the fact, and they help with a lot of issues, but a lot of mitigation, a lot of housing issues. After Irma, they provided $1.4 billion worth of funding to the state, and it's very important that our local community, individuals like Sandy and the sheriff, build relationships with HUD, because there's going to be if we have a disaster, there will be a program, and what's important is that program is a bottoms-up program. It's not something the state does, it's not something the federal government does. They'll provide funding the federal government would, but the decisions on how that money is spent needs to be done as much at the local level as possible, because they have better information. And then the SBA, what they do is they come in right afterwards with money. So they come in and they start lending money to our businesses to get them back up on their feet as quickly as possible. And they have homeowner and renter programs also. But what they'll tell you, the key on those programs is you've got to have your documents. So what I'm going to tell you is just get prepared beforehand. Food, water, 7 days of food or water, because you can't send the police, you can't send the firefighters in during the storm because it's too dangerous to get in there. So you've got to assume you might be stranded for 2 or 3 days. So have your food, water, your medicine, and then make sure you look at, there's a variety of lists out. I'm sure the county has one, the sheriff has one, but the federal government, we have ready.gov. You can look at a list of what you ought to have for hurricane. You can go to the Florida's one, floridadisaster.org. There's a list of what you ought to have, radio, batteries, things like that. And right now, starting tomorrow through next Thursday, you can get it tax-free, which is a big deal. And I know then some of the stores around are even doing additional discounts on top of that, just an effort to get everybody together. But get a plan, have all the documents you need, have the water and stuff. Get your documents, put them together, put them in something that if there's a lot of rain, they're not going to get ruined, because you will have to have those documents for the federal government to be a partner, because they're accountable federal programs, which they should be. So, but my job this week has been to try to get around the state, let people know to get ready. We are making sure at the federal level we're working well together. HUD, SBA, FEMA work really well together. Just talked to the Gracia Check, who runs the Southeast, who I got to know really well in my 8 years as governor with FEMA because of all the disasters we had. So we're gonna work hard, and I know everybody locally is gonna work hard, but you got to do your part. You got to prepare so we don't lose anybody's life. I love my kids, my grandkids, my son-in-laws, my wife. I want them to be safe. I want everybody's family to be safe. So now let me turn it over to Denise, and she can announce she's moving to Florida and also on top of what HUD does.
Well, thank you, Senator. I actually have to be in Miami next week, so a residence in Florida is looking better and better. I bring you greetings on behalf of Secretary Ben Carson. The last time that the Secretary and I were together down here in Florida, we were here unfortunately touring Mexico Beach and Panama City and looking at the devastating effects of the storms and the hurricanes there, trying to see how we can be of assistance, how we can hold our hands out to try and to help. And so I don't want to have many more of those. I am over Region 4, and Region 4 is the largest of the 10 regions, but it also has the most storms and hurricanes. It's the whole Southeast plus Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And every time that we have a devastating hurricane, I'm on a plane to go down as soon as I can get on a plane to see how we can help. And I'd rather be going down to talk about other things, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And we've over the last few years have had a tough time. I'd like to acknowledge Alicia Scott Ford. She's my North Florida Field Office Director. We also have an office down in Miami, and Luis Royer was with the Senator on yesterday. I want to make sure of a number of things. One of the things that had been mentioned, it is so critical to make sure that you have documents and all of your paperwork, important paperwork together, and make sure that you keep them at a place that it may not be, your home may not be the safest place to keep them, because if there's some devastating effects to your home, those papers that you will need to provide to SBA, to provide to HUD, to provide to FEMA may not be readily accessible. So it's critical that those papers be gathered. When you're in the throes of a hurricane, and I've talked to many, many people, it's such a devastating time. That's the last thing that you want to think about, trying to gather those papers. So it's important to gather all of them, because they can't start the application process without those, and it's critical to have them ahead of time. Where HUD comes in, as the Senator mentioned, we come in a bigger way through recovery with our CDBG, DR funds, and which of course has to be approved by Congress. But that funding, which you have received, and every disaster state has received, one of the things that has to be done is the plan has to be put forth before you can get the funding. So I would admonish and encourage you who have been through this before, who know what's involved, to get your state, your city, your community leaders together, so that when it comes time for the funding, you're not scrambling trying to get everyone together to make a plan to determine how you need to disperse funds, because the funds cannot be dispersed until this plan is made, and that's another thing that you can do ahead of time. HUD also provides some funding through loans, through our 203H loan, and which deals with rehabilitating housing after a storm. The Secretary has mentioned and talked about that on several occasions. But our biggest message today, and in my prior life I was a lawyer, so I have to stop talking. But I do want you to know that HUD is always there. We're there before, during, and after. We come down, make assessments, we come down beforehand. So any information that you need, www.hud.gov, please look at our site. We have a lot on there with disasters. But if you need us for anything, we are available. Our field office directors here in the state, me as the head of the region, I'm always accessible. Anything that you need, any question that you have, there's no such thing, I tell people, there's no such thing as a silly question, but whatever you need, we're there to provide assistance, and particularly at the direction of our great leader, Senator Ben Carson. But one last thing, Senator, I wish that there were more leaders like you, not to flatter you, because we've been together for a week.
I haven't convinced her yet to move, though. I'm not that good.
But because I am over this region that experiences probably the most hurricanes, I have not found anyone else who's doing what he's doing this week. My phone has not rung. I was in California and last week meeting with the other RAs, and I got a message that said, the senator's going down to Florida, can you be down there? But I have never gotten that call from any other official, legislator, to come down to any of my other states to do what he's doing. He clearly cares about the people of Florida, and I care about the people of Florida, but I just want to commend him for what he's doing this week, and I hope that everyone who listens heeds what he says, because this is really critically important. I ran into a family when I was in North Carolina who tried to ride out the storm. It's an elderly couple, and I talked with them, and their hands were shaking months after the hurricane, and they said if they ever had to do it again, they would never try and ride it out. So please listen and heed the words that are being presented here today. Thank you.
And one of the reasons we're doing this is hopefully everybody here will get to know HUD, and so if you have an issue, you can try to build these relationships before the problem happens. Next, we have Jack Kemp from the SBA and tell you what the SBA does.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. The Small Business Administration in a disaster, a lot of people don't realize that we help homeowners and renters as well as businesses that have been affected by a disaster. In fact, in the last year, we've made over $52,000 loans for over $2.1 billion. We've been busy here in the state of Florida, Matthew, Irma, Michael, over just the last few years, to name a few. And, we see a lot, and we'd rather make less loans, and that's why one of the big reasons that we are so big on preparedness. And, as I say, you want to make a plan. It's been mentioned a couple of times about saving your documents up, maybe putting them in a safe spot. I would recommend people save them electronically, usually in a couple of places there too. But, that way you have those available. But, the biggest thing about a plan does have to do with safety. First of all, take care of yourself, take care of your family. If the local authorities advise you to evacuate and there's still time to evacuate safely, have an evacuation plan, have somebody out of state that you can contact or that people can contact to find out about you. And keep in touch with people so that people know that you're safe so that they don't have to look for you. And then, of course, they talk about getting supplies. There's a lot of good sources of supply of preparedness kits. Ready.gov, I think, is an excellent one. It's real easy to remember, too. And then, another thing I want you to consider is mitigation. And as part of our disaster loans, we can loan people additional money for mitigation, such as hurricane windows or elevation. There's limits on how far we can go with that, but that is part of what we can do to help people after a disaster. But before a disaster, if, you're building a home or, you're looking, what can I do to harden my facilities? Think of mitigation. Think of, our retaining walls, seawalls, sump pumps, safe rooms, storm shelters. What is appropriate for your situation that you can do to get ready for the storm the next time one comes? And hopefully that'll be a long time. Thank you.
And you can come to Carrollwood, and they'll tell you exactly what type of windows and doors you ought to have. And I mean, that's what's great about our state. We have companies like Carrollwood that they want to do the right thing. They're going to help you buy the right things. They're not going to waste your money. Sandy, did you want to say anything?
Just real quick. I promise. This morning, we were fortunate to have our first drill at the County Emergency Operations Center. And I just want to thank our Senator Rick Scott. I've known him for now 8.5, almost 9 years. And I tell you, I've never seen anybody so committed to our state as he is. And it really means a lot to all of us, but we just have to be ready. But I want to tell you, our Emergency Operations Center at the county, with the help of our sheriff, we are totally prepared this year, better than we have ever been, and lessons learned from Michael and the help that Senator Scott has given us. Our communications plan is crisp. We're going to notify people early enough and as often enough as we need to. We're going to, if we have to evacuate, you will know. You will have the assistance of people, and I will tell you, if you have pets or anybody that need assistance, you need to let us know now. HillsboroCounty.org, and they'll take you to the website. And also reentry. Reentry is going to be huge. Reentry, cleanup, whatever that is. We're ready. So, but we want our citizens to be ready. We want them to be safe. We don't want any loss of life, loss of personal, belongings, none of that. We want to be safe. It's very warm out there now. The water is very warm. You know it's dry. We haven't had any rain in, 4 weeks, but it's coming, folks. So any little storm only takes one, and we'll have a real devastation here, but we know we've got a good team behind us to really help us. So thank you.
So I want to thank everybody at Carrollwood for hosting us here today. I want this whole team up here. We're going to do everything we can, but just remember, the most important thing is you got to be prepared before it happens, because the sheriff will do everything he can. The county's going to do everything they can. Federal government's going to do everything they can, but during the middle of the storm, right after the storm, it's hard to get to you. But you should be very proud of the entire state and the people around the state, and they show up and help. I can tell you, when Michael hit, we had police departments, sheriff departments, fire departments, all up there ready to go down, because that storm hit during the day. As soon as that storm passed, they were on their way down to the coast to try to save people's lives, and they did. So get ready and be careful. Have a great day. Bye-bye.